My best friend became an influencer and lost her mind. I tried to help her until she exploited my mental breakdown for clout, so I flipped the script and exposed her with the truth. She used to be the type of girl to cycle to your house at 4 a.m. when you started crying over the phone, to prepare a birthday text the day before your birthday, and send it at exactly midnight, so I always felt safe telling her everything. But then when she hit that first influencer milestone, getting to 10,000 followers, it was like a flip had switched. Everything became content. One time I was in the middle of bawling my eyes out, and she started rearranging the bed to make it look like she was comforting me, took a photo, and ignored me for the whole night to reply to DMs. Another time she texted me demanding that I come over for an emergency, and when I opened the door, I found her with fizz in her mouth. She was convulsing and her eyes were rolling backwards. I started hyperventilating and dialed 911 into my phone, but that's when she stood up and smiled. "Haha, gotcha!" she yelled, before grabbing her phone that was in the corner of the room that had recorded the entire thing. And I guess she noticed my annoyedness because that's when she said, "Sorry, I hope you don't mind, it's just views have been down lately," as if it was the most justified reason in the entire world. But instead of telling her off, I just nodded, because I thought that one day my best friend would come back. From there, things only got worse. After 2 months had passed, she had pranked me with so much BS that I didn't even react anymore, and she was on her 6th boyfriend that year when my breaking point came. I was actually surprised when that one lasted over 3 weeks, so much so that I invited them both to my dorm because I wanted to meet him in case he was my bestie's future husband or something. I left them alone to make us some pot noodles, and I was just about to come back in when I heard her laughing really hard, harder than she ever did with me, so I put my ear to the door. It's like, one part of me is happy for my best friend living her dream, but the other half misses how things used to be. As soon as I heard those words leave her boyfriend's mouth, my heart dropped, because they weren't his, they were mine, and they were reading my diary. I was so stunned that when I walked in, I went into retail mode, aka making my tone overly enthusiastic, my smile abnormally large, and acting unsettlingly warm, mainly because I felt so upset that the last thing I wanted was to cry in front of some random boy, and those idiots bought my act. As if I hadn't noticed, my diary had gone from my shelf to right on top of my pillow, and as soon as they left, I began to hatch a plan. I wrote out an email template for why a brand should sponsor my bestie, and forwarded it to every beauty and clothing business I could find. Almost all of them said yes, because in them, I included Lisa's, my ex-bestie's, proven track record of increasing brands' revenue by 200%. And I guess being in event planning really does come in handy, because in the next few weeks, I spent my entire savings account on organizing Lisa's influencer partnerships launch. There were about 20 big brands that you probably know the names of, as well as 60 smaller ones attending. So when the day finally came, I texted Lisa the venue, except I told her it was the location of a gym, and told her to wear sweats and an old t-shirt because we were doing a spin class together. So when the brands were expecting to see a put-together 23-year-old self-made woman, they were instead faced with a sweaty girl in the crustiest outfit of all time arrive an hour late. As soon as she walked in, I yelled, "The woman of the hour! Welcome, Lisa!" She looked around super confused, and that's when all the brands came up to her to try and network. "Lisa, don't be shy! All these brands want to hear about how you single-handedly increased the revenue of Gymshark and L'Oreal." The flicker of panic behind her eyes was better than any apology she could have given me. That's when I helped her out. "Lisa, get on stage. That way you don't have to keep re-explaining everything." She walked on awkwardly, grabbing the mic and readying herself for the Q&A. In just 10 minutes, the initial excitement in the room had completely left. I even saw one of the brand reps roll their eyes. Within an hour, they had all made some sort of excuse to leave and never come back. "What the EF did you just do?" she yelled the second the door closed. "Oh, you know, the same thing you did to me when you read my diary." Her eyes widened and her hand went to cover her mouth. "Oh, yep. Hope this taught you a little lesson about privacy," I said with a smile. As I drove home that night, I really thought I had taught her a lesson, that everything was right with the world, but it wasn't, because when I woke up the next morning, my phone almost fell off my nightside table with how hard it was vibrating. Lisa had told all her followers that I was obsessed with her, that I had tried to make a move on her when we were kids, and ever since she rejected me, I haven't stopped stalking her, following her everywhere. The story was completely fabricated, but delivered with such convincing tears and reluctant disclosure that her followers believed every word. She described years of supposed harassment, claiming she'd been too afraid to speak up until now, painting herself as the long-suffering victim of my dangerous obsession. The video had already amassed hundreds of thousands of views. Her followers, eager to defend their favorite content creator, had found all my social media accounts. My inbox was flooded with hate messages, threats, and demands that I leave Lisa alone. People I'd never met were combing through years of my online presence, twisting innocent photos and comments into evidence of my supposed fixation. The next few weeks passed in a blur of anxiety and isolation. Friends stopped returning my texts, classmates whispered when I entered rooms, and professors gave me concerned looks during lectures. Lisa's followers continued their digital witch hunt, some even contacting my workplace and the university administration with complaints about my threatening behavior. I continued writing my blog posts, pouring my heart out while being careful not to include any identifying details. The blog had been my private sanctuary for years, a place to process my thoughts without judgment. Now it became my lifeline, the only space where I could tell my side of the story, even if obliquely. I wrote about friendship, betrayal, and the toxic nature of social media fame, all thinly veiled as fiction or general observations. My 6th post, "The Digital Burning Stake: How Social Media Enables Modern Witch Hunts," went viral on Reddit. Someone had shared it in r/true off my chest, and within days it had over 50,000 upvotes. The post examined how social media mobs form, how accusations become facts without evidence, and how the court of public opinion often renders verdicts without due process. I never mentioned Lisa or my situation specifically, but the parallels were clear to anyone who read between the lines. "This is exactly what happened to my cousin," one commenter wrote under the username TruthSeeker42. "One person with a following can destroy someone's entire life with a few well-placed lies." The comment received thousands of upvotes and sparked a lengthy discussion about cancel culture and the responsibility of influencers. I felt a strange sense of validation seeing others connect with my experience, even if they didn't know it was mine. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel completely alone. The supportive comments and shared experiences created a virtual community of people who understood the damage false accusations could cause. I found myself checking the post multiple times times a day, drawing strength from the discussions happening in the comment section. Then came the message that made my stomach drop. Is this about Lisa Perry? Because it sounds exactly like what she did to that stalker girl. The comment appeared on my latest blog post. My fingers froze over the keyboard, my breath catching in my throat as I stared at the words on the screen. Someone had made the connection. Someone had recognized the situation despite my careful anonymization. Within hours, more followed. OMG, I was thinking the same thing. Wait, are you the girl Lisa exposed? This has to be about that influencer drama from last month. The comments multiplied, each one increasing my anxiety. My safe space was being invaded, the thin veil of anonymity threatening to tear completely. I panicked and called Janet, the counselor from the Women's Center who'd been helping me navigate the fallout from Lisa's accusations. The phone rang 3 times before her calm, steady voice answered. I explained the situation in a rush of words, my voice rising with each sentence. Don't delete anything, she advised, her voice calm and steady. You haven't named anyone. You haven't defamed anyone. You're simply telling your story. They can speculate all they want, but they can't prove anything. Her reassurance was like a life raft in the stormy sea of my panic, something solid to cling to amid the chaos. But what if Lisa sees it? What if she sues me? My voice cracked as I paced my small dorm room. The walls seemed to be closing in, the space shrinking with each anxious step. Outside my window, students walked to class, laughing and talking, their lives continuing normally while mine felt like it was imploding. For what? Writing fiction? Because that's what you've officially been doing. Unless you've included specific identifying details I told you to avoid, she has no case. Janet's legal background before becoming a counselor gave weight to her words. She explained the difference between defamation and creative expression, between specific accusations and general observations. I checked my posts again, scanning for anything that could definitively link them to Lisa. I'd been careful to change enough details, locations, timelines, even the nature of the revenge plot. I described it as a failed surprise party rather than a fake brand event. It was recognizable to anyone who knew the real story, but legally distinct. The characters in my blog had different ages, backgrounds, even different colored hair. I had created just enough separation to maintain plausible deniability. Still, I was terrified. I changed my posting schedule and added more fictional elements to throw people off the scent. I introduced completely fabricated characters and scenarios, mixing them with elements of my real experience to create a narrative patchwork that would be difficult to untangle. I changed the setting from a university to a workplace, altered the timeline, and added plot points that had never happened in reality. But it was too late. My blog had caught the attention of Lisa's followers. They began dissecting every post, looking for clues to confirm I was the stalker from Lisa's videos. Screenshots of my writing appeared in their group chats, with amateur detectives highlighting phrases they deemed suspicious or revealing. The online sleuthing intensified, with people comparing writing styles, timestamps, and thematic elements to build their case against me. Then Lisa herself addressed it in a live stream, her perfectly contoured face filling my screen. The notification had popped up on my phone. Lisa Perry is now live, and despite my better judgment, I found myself clicking, drawn to watch like a moth to flame. Her room was impeccably staged as always, soft lighting highlighting her features, a vase of fresh flowers strategically placed in the background. So many of you have been sending me this blog, she said, rolling her eyes dramatically. Yes, I've seen it. And yes, it's obviously written by you-know-who. Some people just can't move on, you know? They have to keep obsessing and creating these weird fantasy versions of reality. She laughed, flipping her hair. The casual dismissal stung more than outright anger would have, the way she reduced my pain to a punchline. Like, remember when we were kids and she used to follow me around everywhere? She even wore the same clothes as me to school sometimes. It was so creepy. Her voice took on a conspiratorial tone, as if sharing secrets with thousands of her closest friends. My hands clenched into fists as I watched her fabricate new details, adding layers to her already false narrative. My hands clenched into fists. That had never happened. She was making up new lies, embellishing her story to make me sound even more unhinged. We hadn't even attended the same school until high school, and by then we were already friends. The blatant fabrication made my blood boil, but also sent ice through my veins. If she could lie so easily about verifiable facts, what else would she claim? And now she's writing this pathetic blog where she's the victim? Please. She literally tried to sabotage my career. She literally pretended to be me in emails. Who does that? Lisa continued ranting, becoming more animated. Her hands gesticulated wildly, her voice rising with indignation. The comment section filled with supportive messages, her followers eager to reinforce her version of events. And you know what's really sad? She keeps writing about how I supposedly changed after getting followers. Like, no sweetie, I just finally got the confidence to set boundaries with someone who was literally obsessed with me. The casual cruelty in her voice was like a physical blow. She had twisted our years of genuine friendship into something sinister, rewriting our shared history to cast herself as the victim and me as the villain. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. Remember that pink diary she always carried around? The one with the little lock that she thought kept her creepy thoughts private? Maybe I should share some of what was actually in there. Then everyone would understand why I had to cut her off. Her eyebrows raised suggestively, her lips curling into a smirk that promised further humiliation. My heart pounded in my chest. She wouldn't. She couldn't. Those were my private thoughts, my deepest vulnerabilities. The diary contained not just my feelings about Lisa, but my struggles with anxiety, my family problems, my insecurities and hopes and dreams. The thought of those intimate reflections being mocked for entertainment made me physically ill, a wave of nausea washing over me as I continued watching, unable to look away. Actually, no, Lisa continued with a self-satisfied smirk. I'm not that petty. Unlike some people who create whole fake events just to humiliate others. She tossed her hair again, positioning herself as the bigger person, the mature one rising above the drama. The comment section flooded with praise for her restraint, her followers applauding her for taking the high road. But in her anger, Lisa had made a critical mistake. She'd mentioned my pink diary with a lock, a detail I had never shared publicly, a detail that wasn't in any of her previous videos, a detail only someone who had actually seen and read my diary would know. In her eagerness to threaten me, she had revealed her own transgression. Within hours, clips of that specific moment from her live stream were circulating on Reddit and Twitter. People were starting to question her story. Wait, how does she know what the diary looks like if she didn't read it? Didn't she claim the stalker made everything up? So how does she know about the diary? Something's not adding up here. The questions multiplied, spreading across platforms, gaining traction with each share and retweet. Lisa lies started trending on Twitter as people connected dots, seeing the pattern in her behavior. Her previous inconsistencies were brought to light, old contradictions resurfacing as viewers began to re-examine her story with more critical eyes. The unquestioning support she had enjoyed began to show cracks, with even some loyal followers expressing confusion about the diary slip. Lisa quickly posted a follow-up video claiming she'd seen me writing in it years ago. Her explanation was hasty and unconvincing, her usual poise replaced by a subtle nervousness as she tried to patch the hole in her narrative. She spoke too quickly, her eyes darting around rather than maintaining her usual direct gaze with the camera. Even her most devoted followers noticed the change in demeanor, but the damage was done. A seed of doubt had been planted. The unquestioning acceptance of her story had been disrupted, replaced by questions and skepticism. The tide was beginning to turn, slowly but perceptibly. The next morning, I received a message from someone named Mateo. "Hey, you don't know me, but I was friends with Lisa 2 years ago before she ghosted me. I saw the clips going around about the diary thing. I believe you. Lisa did the same kind of thing to me and our friend group. Would you be willing to talk?" The message appeared in my Instagram DMs from an account I didn't recognize. My first instinct was caution. This could be another of Lisa's followers trying to trick me into saying something incriminating. I approached with caution, asking for proof he knew Lisa. He sent me photos of them together from before I knew her well. The images showed a younger Lisa with a group of friends I'd never met at what appeared to be a music festival. Mateo was easily identifiable by his distinctive curly hair and warm smile. The photos predated her influencer fame, showing a more natural, less curated version of her that few of her current followers would recognize. We arranged to talk over video chat, and I was surprised to find he seemed genuine, with kind eyes and a nervous habit of running his hand through his curly hair. His apartment was visible in the background, modest, slightly messy, with textbooks stacked on a desk suggesting he was a student. Nothing about him triggered my now well-developed warning signals. Lisa has a pattern, Mateo explained. She befriends people, uses them for content or connections, then discards them. When they try to call her out, she twists the narrative to make them look crazy or obsessive. His voice held the resigned tone of someone who had processed his hurt and moved on, but still carried the lessons learned from the experience. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked, still wary of his intentions. My experiences had taught me to question everything, to look for hidden motives behind seemingly kind gestures. The afternoon sun streamed through my window, illuminating dust particles floating in the air as I waited for his response. "Because it's gone too far. What she's doing to you is worse than anything she did to us. And honestly, that diary slip-up in her livestream was the first crack in her perfect victim facade. Some of us who've been silently watching think it might be time to speak up." He explained that he and others had been following the situation from afar, recognizing the patterns, but hesitant to involve themselves until now. Over the next week, 2 more former friends of Lisa's reached out to me, Delilah and Harrison. Each had similar stories of manipulation and public smearing when they tried to distance themselves from her. Their experiences echoed mine with eerie similarity: the love bombing at the beginning, the gradual transformation of the friendship into content, the swift and vicious retaliation when they expressed concerns. "She told everyone I was stealing from her," Delilah explained, her voice still carrying the hurt from years ago. "I lost most of my friends. I had to transfer schools." Delilah was a petite woman with a soft voice and expressive eyes that revealed the pain she still carried. Her experience had happened during their sophomore year of high school, long before Lisa had any significant social media presence. "She claimed I was stalking her too," Harrison added with a bitter laugh. "It's her go-to accusation when someone calls her out." Harrison was older than the rest of us, having met Lisa through a campus organization. His experience was more recent, occurring just before her influencer career began to take off. The similarities between our stories were striking, revealing a clear pattern of behavior that had evolved but remained fundamentally the same. All 3 had stayed silent until now because they feared the backlash from Lisa's growing fan base. But seeing the questions about the diary had given them courage. The cracks in Lisa's carefully constructed narrative had provided an opening, a possibility that they might actually be believed if they spoke up now. "What if we all shared our stories together?" I suggested during our group video call, the idea forming as I spoke. Not just me alone, but all of us who've been hurt by her. The thought of not facing this alone, of having others who understood and could corroborate the pattern of behavior, gave me a surge of hope I hadn't felt in weeks. They were hesitant, but agreed to think about it. The risks were still significant: online harassment, potential damage to their reputations, the emotional toll of revisiting painful experiences. We agreed to take some time to consider the implications before making any decisions. Meanwhile, I continued writing my blog, carefully documenting my experiences without naming names. Each post was a delicate balance between truth and fiction, reality and plausible deniability. I focused on the emotional impact of false accusations, the isolation of being targeted online, and the difficulty of defending oneself against a much more powerful adversary. Then came an unexpected development. Lisa's 6th boyfriend, the one who had read my diary with her, sent me a friend request on Instagram. His name was Felix. The notification appeared while I was working on a paper for my psychology class, the familiar ping drawing my attention to my phone screen. Seeing his name sent a jolt through me, a mixture of anger, curiosity, and wariness. I accepted with trepidation, my finger hovering over the screen for several seconds before tapping confirm. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to maintain the distance between myself and anyone connected to Lisa, but another part was curious about his intentions, wondering what could have prompted this outreach after everything that had happened. "I know you probably hate me," his first message read. "I deserve that, but I need to tell you I'm sorry for what happened with the diary, and for what it's worth, I don't believe what Lisa's saying about you." The message appeared immediately after I accepted his request, suggesting he had been waiting for the connection to be established. I was suspicious, remembering how he'd laughed while reading my most private thoughts. The memory of his voice reciting my words, the sound of their combined laughter echoing through my dorm room, was still fresh and painful. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I considered how to respond, or whether to respond at all. "Why are you contacting me now?" I finally replied, opting for directness. The question was simple but loaded with all the hurt and anger I'd been carrying. The 3 dots appeared immediately, indicating he was typing a response. "Because I've been seeing your blog posts. At least I think they're yours. And they made me realize how messed up everything was. Lisa and I broke up a week after that day at your dorm. She started treating me the same way she treated you." His response came in several parts, each message appearing quickly after the last as he explained his situation. Felix explained that Lisa had manipulated him too, using him for content, and then discarding him when he questioned her behavior. He'd been following the unfolding drama from afar, watching as Lisa's lies began to unravel. His own experience with her had opened his eyes to the patterns I described in my blog, making him realize the role he had played in hurting me. "I have something that might help you," he wrote. "Lisa invited me over last week. She thought I wanted to get back together, but I really wanted to see if she'd admit what she did to you." The message was followed by a file attachment icon, an audio recording. My heart rate increased as I stared at it, unsure whether to trust him enough to listen. He sent me an audio file. With shaking hands, I pressed play. Lisa's voice came through clearly. "Oh my God, have you seen that pathetic blog everyone thinks is written by her? It's so obviously her." Her voice was instantly recognizable, carrying the same dismissive tone she used in her videos when talking about me. "Felix, yeah, I've read it. Some of it seems pretty accurate though." His voice was cautious, probing, clearly trying to get her to reveal more without alerting her to his true intentions. Lisa, laughing. "Whatever. None of it matters. They'll always believe me over her. I have the platform. I have the followers. She's just some random nobody." The casual cruelty in her voice was shocking even after everything I'd experienced. The raw honesty of her statement, admitting that her power came from her platform, not from telling the truth, was damning. "Felix, but what about the diary thing? People are saying you slipped up." His question was direct, addressing the very issue that had started to turn the tide of public opinion. "Lisa, please, I'll just say I misspoke, or that she showed it to me once. My followers will believe anything I tell them. That's the power of being an influencer." Her confidence was chilling, the calculated way she planned to manipulate her audience revealing the extent of her deception. I listened to the recording 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Here was proof, actual proof, that Lisa was lying, that she knew exactly what she was doing. The validation after weeks of being disbelieved was overwhelming, a mixture of relief and renewed anger washing over me in waves. "Did you record this without her knowing?" I asked Felix. The legal implications immediately occurred to me, tempering my excitement with practical concerns. If the recording was obtained illegally, it might be unusable in any formal capacity. "Yes," he admitted, "probably not legal, but I was so angry about how she was treating you, how she treated me." His honesty was refreshing after so much deception. He acknowledged the problematic nature of his actions while standing by his intentions to help. I thanked him but explained I couldn't use an illegally obtained recording. The risks were too great. Potential legal consequences, further ammunition for Lisa to paint me as unethical, the possibility of undermining the credibility I was slowly rebuilding. Still, hearing Lisa admit the truth gave me renewed determination. Even if I couldn't share the recording publicly, knowing the truth for certain strengthened my resolve to continue fighting. The next day, I received an email from the university. The investigation into Lisa's harassment claims had concluded, and they found insufficient evidence to support her allegations. My housing suspension was lifted. The formal language of the email couldn't mask the significance of the decision. The university had essentially determined that Lisa's claims weren't credible enough to warrant continued action against me. It wasn't a complete vindication, but it was something. A small victory in the larger battle, a step toward reclaiming my life and reputation. I read the email multiple times, each reading bringing a fresh wave of relief. The weight that had been pressing on my chest for weeks eased slightly, allowing me to take a full breath for the first time in what felt like forever. When I returned to campus, things had shifted slightly. The whispers hadn't stopped entirely, but they'd changed in tone. Lisa's diary slip-up had made some people question her story. The university's decision had given others pause. A few former friends even reached out to apologize for believing her so quickly. "I should have asked for your side before jumping to conclusions," my lab partner Emma wrote in a tentative text. "I'm really sorry." Such messages were rare but meaningful, small indicators that the tide of opinion was slowly turning. But Lisa wasn't going down without a fight. She posted a tearful video claiming she was being harassed by anonymous accounts, and that her stalker was now creating fake recordings to damage her reputation. The video was masterfully crafted, with perfect lighting highlighting her glistening tears, dramatic pauses timed for maximum emotional impact, and a carefully selected outfit that made her appear vulnerable and innocent. Her most devoted followers doubled down, sending me fresh waves of hate messages. "Leave her alone. Get help, psycho. We know what you're doing." The messages flooded my inbox, each one a reminder that many people still believed her narrative completely. The university's decision and the questions about her diary slip were dismissed as further evidence of my supposed influence and manipulation. That's when Delilah made a bold decision. "I'm tired of being afraid," she told me over coffee, the afternoon sun highlighting the determination in her eyes. "I want to tell my story. On your blog." The campus coffee shop buzzed with activity around us, students studying and socializing, oblivious to the significant moment unfolding at our corner table. Harrison and Mateo agreed to join her. We decided to publish a joint post titled, "The Pattern, 3 Former Friends Speak Out." They each wrote their experiences with Lisa, the love bombing, the exploitation for content, the smear campaigns when they tried to establish boundaries. Their stories spanned different time periods, different contexts, but shared striking similarities that couldn't be dismissed as coincidence. We published it on a Friday night. By Saturday morning, it had been shared thousands of times across multiple platforms. The post included only first names and no direct links to Lisa's accounts, maintaining the thin veil of plausible deniability while making the subject unmistakable to anyone familiar with the situation. Each story was detailed and specific, providing concrete examples of behavior that matched exactly what I had experienced. Lisa's response was swift and desperate. She posted a 3-part video series calling us all liars, claiming we were colluding against her out of jealousy. She even produced screenshots of threatening messages I had supposedly sent her, messages that were clearly fabricated, with timestamps that didn't match any possible time I could have sent them. The font was slightly different from the platform's standard text, the formatting inconsistent with genuine messages. These discrepancies were quickly pointed out by observant viewers, further undermining her credibility. But her hastily constructed defense was falling apart. Too many inconsistencies had piled up. Too many former friends had similar stories. The carefully crafted image she'd built was cracking under the weight of collective truth. Each attempt to shore up her narrative only revealed new contradictions, new holes in her story that observant followers were increasingly unwilling to ignore. Then came the masterstroke. Delilah, who had maintained some peripheral contact with Lisa through mutual friends, received an invitation to Lisa's apartment. "She wants to clear the air about everything that's happening," Delilah told me, showing me the text. "She doesn't know I'm working with you." The message was casual, friendly, Lisa's typical approach when trying to manipulate a situation situation back under her control. It could be a trap, I warned, concern tightening my chest. She might be trying to get you to say something she can use against you. The risks were significant. Lisa could record their conversation, edit it to change the context, use it to paint Delilah as the aggressor or manipulator in their relationship. Or, Delilah said with a determined look, it could be my chance to get her to admit what she did. On record, her eyes held a steely resolve I hadn't seen before, the quiet strength of someone who had been silenced once and refused to let it happen again. We spent hours discussing the risks. Eventually, Delilah decided to go, with her phone recording in her pocket and a clear exit strategy if things went south. We established check-in protocols, code words for distress, and a timeline for when I should be concerned if I didn't hear from her. The planning was meticulous, addressing every contingency we could imagine. The meeting happened the following evening. I paced my dorm room the entire time, checking my phone every 30 seconds, terrified for Delilah's safety. Each minute felt like an hour, my imagination conjuring increasingly dire scenarios as time passed. What if Lisa realized Delilah was recording? What if she became confrontational? What if she had others there to intimidate Delilah? When she finally texted, "I'm out, got it," I nearly collapsed with relief. The 3 simple words released the tension that had been building in my body for hours. I responded immediately, arranging to meet her as soon as possible to hear what had happened. We met at a 24-hour diner off campus. Delilah looked shaken but triumphant as she placed her phone on the table between us, the fluorescent lights casting shadows across her face. Her hands trembled slightly as she navigated to the recording, but her eyes were clear and determined. "Listen to this," she said, pressing play. The recording was crystal clear. After some initial small talk, Lisa had launched into a rant about that stupid blog and how it was ruining everything she'd built. Her voice came through the speaker with perfect clarity, each damning word unmistakable. "Lisa, it's so obvious it's her. That pathetic loser who couldn't handle that I was more successful than her." The venom in her voice was palpable. The mask of the victim completely dropped in what she thought was a private conversation. "Delilah, but some of what she wrote seems true, about the diary and everything." Delilah's voice was carefully neutral, giving Lisa space to either confirm or deny the allegations without feeling directly challenged. Lisa, laughing, "Oh please, so what if I read her stupid diary? Everyone's acting like that's such a big deal. She left it out. What was I supposed to do, not read it?" The casual admission was stunning in its nonchalance, as if invading someone's privacy was so insignificant it barely warranted mention. "Delilah, so you did read it?" The question was direct but delivered in a tone of simple curiosity rather than accusation. "Lisa, obviously, but that doesn't justify what she did after. The whole fake brand event, humiliating me in front of actual companies. She could have ruined my career before it even started." Her indignation was rich with irony, considering the damage she had done to my reputation and mental health. "Delilah, but in your videos you said she made up the diary thing, that she was obsessed with you." The gentle reminder of her public statements contrasted sharply with her private admissions. Lisa, dismissive, "Yeah, well, you have to fight fire with fire. None of it matters anyway. They'll always believe me. I have 500,000 followers now thanks to this drama. My engagement is through the roof." The calculated nature of her approach was chilling. The explicit acknowledgement that truth was irrelevant, that only power and influence mattered. The recording continued for another 15 minutes, with Lisa freely admitting to manipulating her audience, fabricating threats, and deliberately trying to get me expelled from school. She detailed how she had crafted her victim narrative, how she had timed her tearful videos for maximum impact, how she had coordinated her followers' attacks without explicitly directing them. The level of premeditation was shocking, even after everything I had experienced. "This is it," I whispered, the greasy diner coffee forgotten between my hands. "This is everything." The recording was the smoking Gian we had been hoping for. Undeniable proof of Lisa's deception and manipulation, in her own words, without ambiguity or room for misinterpretation. We debated what to do with the recording. Like Felix's, it had been made without consent and might not be legally usable. But unlike his, this one had Delilah as an active participant in the conversation. The legal implications were complex, varying by state and circumstance. We needed to be careful about how we proceeded. After consulting with Janet, we decided to transcribe key portions and publish them anonymously on the blog, being careful to frame it as alleged statements rather than confirmed recordings. We didn't post the audio itself, but described its contents in detail. The post was meticulously worded, reviewed by Janet for potential legal issues, and designed to present the information without making definitive claims that could lead to legal action. We didn't post the audio itself, but described its contents in detail. The post went live under the title, "The Mask Slips: Inside the Mind of a Social Media Manipulator." Within hours, it had been shared across multiple platforms, igniting fierce debate in comment sections everywhere. The transcribed quotes were damning enough on their own, revealing a calculated approach to manipulation that shocked even those who had been skeptical of Lisa's claims from the beginning. Lisa's response was unhinged. She went live on Instagram, mascara streaming down her face, accusatory finger pointing at the camera as she ranted. Gone was the composed, strategic influencer who carefully crafted each piece of content. In her place was someone desperate and cornered, lashing out in all directions. She accused us of doctoring audio, of conspiring against her, of trying to cancel her out of jealousy. "They're all lying," she screamed, her voice cracking. "They're just jealous of my success. They've been planning this for months." The carefully applied makeup that was her trademark began to smudge as she grew more agitated, her perfect image literally and figuratively disintegrating on camera. But her performance wasn't landing the way it used to. The comments section was filled with skepticism. "This seems like a meltdown, not a defense. Why not address the specific claims instead of just calling everyone liars? I've followed you for a year, but something isn't adding up." The blind support she had enjoyed was eroding, replaced by questions and doubt. The tide was turning, slowly but surely. Brands began quietly unfollowing her. Her engagement rate dropped. People were unsubscribing from her channels in noticeable numbers. The metrics she valued above all else, followers, likes, views, were declining steadily, a digital representation of her waning influence. Then came the significant blow. One of the beauty brands that had attended my fake launch event, Luminous Beauty, released a statement. "In light of recent allegations, Luminous Beauty has decided to pause our relationship with content creator Lisa Perry while we evaluate the situation. We take claims of bullying and manipulation seriously." The carefully worded corporate statement represented a significant shift, a major brand publicly distancing themselves from Lisa, legitimizing the concerns raised in our blog. Other brands followed suit over the next few weeks. Within a month, month, Lisa had lost several sponsorships. Her follower count, while still substantial, had dropped by nearly 20%. Through it all, I maintained my anonymity on the blog. I never confirmed I was the author, never used real names, never crossed the line into definite legal territory. But everyone knew, and increasingly, people believed my version of events. The university finally completed its full investigation and officially cleared me of all harassment allegations. The no-contact order remained in place, which was fine by me. I never wanted to speak to Lisa again anyway. The official clearance allowed me to fully return to campus life, to attend classes without the cloud of suspicion, to begin rebuilding the social connections that had been damaged by Lisa's accusations. As Lisa's influence waned, my blog continued to grow. I expanded beyond just telling my story, writing about broader themes of friendship, betrayal, and the toxicity of social media culture. Readers connected with my raw honesty and vulnerability. The community that formed around the blog became a source of support and validation, a space where people shared their own experiences with online harassment and false accusations. One evening, as I was working on a new post in the library, I received an email from a literary agent named Zoe Schneider. "I've been following your blog with great interest. Your voice is compelling and authentic in a way that's rare to find. I believe your story could make an impactful memoir. Would you be interested in discussing representation?" The email was professional but warm, expressing genuine interest in my writing and perspective. I stared at the screen in disbelief, the cursor blinking steadily as I read the message 3 times. From nearly being expelled to being offered a book deal, it seemed impossible. The trajectory of my life had changed so dramatically in just a few months, from victim to advocate, from silenced to having a platform of my own. I showed the email to Janet, who helped me research Zoe's credentials. She was legitimate, a respected agent with several successful authors on her roster. Her client list included memoirists and essayists known for tackling difficult social issues with nuance and honesty. "This is your chance to reclaim your narrative completely," Janet said, squeezing my shoulder encouragingly, "to tell your story on your terms." Her support had been unwavering throughout the ordeal, her guidance instrumental in helping me navigate the complex emotional and practical challenges of being falsely accused. I agreed to meet with Zoe, who was even more enthusiastic in person. "Your blog resonates with people because it's not just about one toxic friendship. It's about power, social media manipulation, and resilience. That's a story worth telling in full." We met at a quiet cafe near campus, discussing potential approaches to the memoir and the themes it might explore. We discussed the potential legal implications of publishing a memoir. Zoe assured me we could work with lawyers to ensure everything was properly anonymized or framed as my perception of events, rather than definitive claims. The goal wasn't to attack Lisa, but to tell my story authentically while exploring the broader social dynamics at play. As I walked back to my dorm after the meeting, the crisp autumn air filling my lungs, I spotted Lisa across the quad. She was alone. A rare sight from someone who used to be constantly surrounded by admirers. Her posture was different, less confident, more guarded. The carefully curated image she had maintained online was absent in person, replaced by someone who looked ordinary, even vulnerable. Our eyes met briefly. For a moment, I thought she might approach me, might try to confront me about the blog or the recordings or any of it. There was a flicker of something in her expression. Recognition, perhaps regret, though I couldn't be sure. The distance between us felt both vast and insignificant, the culmination of a friendship destroyed by ambition and betrayal. Instead, she looked away first and hurried in the opposite direction, her shoulders hunched against an invisible weight. The power dynamic had shifted completely. Where once she had wielded her influence like a weapon, now she scurried away from direct confrontation. I felt no satisfaction in her downfall, no joy in her isolation, just a profound sense of relief that the truth had finally emerged, and a quiet pride in my own resilience. The journey had been painful, the cost high, but I had survived. More than survived. I had found my voice, my strength, my community. That night, I wrote what would become the most shared post on my blog. It wasn't about Lisa at all. It was about forgiveness. Not for her, but for myself. For believing I deserved the treatment I received. For doubting my own worth when someone else tried to diminish it. The words flowed easily, a cathartic release of emotions I had been processing for months. I included excerpts from my actual diary, entries I'd never shared with anyone, not even Lisa when she snooped through my private thoughts. Poignant reflections on friendship, loyalty, and self-worth that resonated deeply with readers. The vulnerability was terrifying, but liberating. A reclamation of the private thoughts that had been violated. The post went viral in a different way than the expose had. People shared it not out of outrage or schadenfreude, but because it touched something universal in them. The comment section filled with stories of similar experiences, of healing and moving forward. Readers connected with the message of self-forgiveness and resilience, finding echoes of their own struggles in my words. 3 months after Lisa's first video accusing me of stalking her, she quietly reduced her social media presence. Her Instagram posts became infrequent. Her YouTube channel remained, but featured less personal content. Her TikTok posts dwindled to occasional attempts at recapturing her former glory. The power she had wielded so carelessly was diminishing, not in a dramatic cancellation, but in a slow fade of relevance. Meanwhile, I signed a book deal under my pen name. The advance wasn't life-changing, but it covered a significant portion of my final year's tuition. More importantly, it represented a future built not on likes and followers, but on truth, resilience, and genuine connection. The contract sat on my desk, a tangible symbol of how far I had come from the darkest days of Lisa's accusations. Janet threw a small celebration party at the Women's Center when I signed the contract. "I'm proud of you," she told me, "not just for surviving this, but for transforming it into something meaningful." Her words meant more than she knew. Validation from someone who had seen me at my lowest and supported my journey to recovery. Delilah, Harrison, and Mateo were there too. New friends forged in the crucible of shared experience. Our connection was unique, built on mutual understanding of what it meant to be manipulated and discarded by someone we had trusted. There was a comfort in their company that I couldn't find elsewhere, a shorthand of shared experience that needed no explanation. Even Felix showed up briefly, still carrying the guilt of his role in the diary incident but working to make amends. His presence was a reminder that people could change, could recognize their mistakes, and try to do better. His awkward but sincere attempts at friendship were a small but meaningful part of my healing process. As the party wound down, I checked my blog's analytics. The latest post had over 100,000 views. Comments continued to pour in from people finding strength in my words, seeing their own experiences reflected in mine. The community that had formed around my writing was a source of constant amazement. Strangers connecting through shared shared experiences, supporting each other in ways large and small. One comment in particular caught my eye. I used to follow Lisa religiously. I believed everything she said about you. I even sent you a hateful message once. I'm so sorry. Your writing has shown me how easily I was manipulated, how quickly I judged someone I knew nothing about. Thank you for your courage in telling your story. The humility and honesty of the comment touched me deeply, a reminder that growth and change were possible even in the most unlikely circumstances. I smiled as I typed a reply. Thank you for your honesty. We've all believed things we shouldn't at some point. What matters is our willingness to reconsider when presented with new information. The exchange exemplified what my blog had become, not just a platform for my story, but a space for reflection, growth, and connection. The next week, I passed Lisa on campus again. This time, instead of looking away, I met her gaze steadily, not with anger or triumph, but with clarity. The fear that had once gripped me in her presence was gone, replaced by a calm certainty in my own truth. Our shared history couldn't be erased, but it no longer had power over me. She was the one who looked down first, hurrying past with hunched shoulders. I felt no desire to call out to her, no urge to confront her or demand an apology I knew would never come. Instead, I continued walking, head high, toward my next class.